Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started here for the Lower Des Plaines membership meeting. I think like I said in in the email reminder about the meeting, we're going to be relatively short today with just some updates on things. Basically, been busy out getting our field work underway, planned for, and then underway this summer. So really just a number of updates as we go along. Let me just get my screen set here. All right, so just quick overview of our agenda. So we're going to do an update on our bioassessment, talk a little bit about what's going on with chloride variants in the chloride committee, and then really have some focus on our outreach materials, both projects we're working on right now, and then some things that we have planned really over the next 10, 12 months. So I always like to put up our list of current members. I think since our meeting in March, the new member that we had join was the village of Riverside. And I know Nancy has been working on getting all of the membership renewals out for this year. So all of that has been in process. So first sort of active business here today would be to get a motion to approve the minutes from our March meeting, which it looks like I have a motion by Scott Killinger. If I can get a second, just raise your hand. And Jennifer Wasik, thank you. We'll launch our poll. So you can just click your answer, hit the submit button. All right, thank you. And the minutes are approved. Thank you. All right, so just a overview of what we're working on this year. So this is our 4th year of the bioassessment program. So overall, it's a 5-year program with 4 years of sampling. And then next year will really be kind of the catch-up year of getting reports completed through, with NBI. And it'll also give us really kind of perfect timing that next year we can have the vast majority of our efforts focused on actually writing our nutrient assessment and reduction plan. So all the data that we've been collecting over the last 3 years and this year, all of that information will be helpful and be part of what goes into the NARP. So having that year to focus on that actually just worked out really well. I think at the time when we discussed this, we weren't entirely sure of sort of how that plan was going to work out, but this actually worked out very well timing wise. So this year we're focusing on the remaining tributaries. So the first 2 years were mostly main stem Des Plaines River sites, but the second year had a few tributary sites up near O'Hare. The third year was focused on Hickory Creek and its tributaries. And then this year we're focusing on the remaining tributaries. So I have them listed out there. The number in parentheses excuse me, is the number of sites that we have in each of those. Generally speaking, the creeks, the sites that have, or the subwatersheds that have the larger number of sites is generally due to where our treatment plants are. So like Jackson Creek has both Manhattan as well as New Lenox number 2 discharging to it. Long Run has 2 of the Illinois American water plants, wastewater plants on it. Fitiment has the other Lockport Bonnie Bray, as well as, no, I think that's it. And then let's see, Deep Run has Lockport's plant on it. So that's why we have more sites other than Deep Run, which is kind of an odd channel there that runs right along, kind of parallel with the I&M Canal system. So that's where our stations are. So mostly Will County. We pick up Sawmill and Flag, which are in DuPage County, and really, the only other trips that we have on the other side of the Des Plaines River, other than Crystal and Willow, that are up near O'Hare. So just kind of give you an idea of our layout of sites. So we started down, this is the Grant Creek, which is our furthest downstream tributary, and then kind of moved up through the Jackson Creek watershed, and then we had Cedar Creek and Sugar Run, and then we skip over the Hickory Creek watershed, and then north of the Hickory Creek watershed, we have the other smaller tributaries up here with, I always forget the order, but Fidament, Malign, Fraction, Big Run, and then Long Run up here at the top. And then we have our two DuPage County tributaries of Sawmill Creek and Flag Creek. One of the purposes of kind of setting this up as a meeting versus a webinar, if people have questions as I'm going along, please feel free to just unmute yourself and ask the question. We're a small group here, particularly today, so please feel free to just unmute and ask a question on any of this as we're going along. So the just summaries, we have 48 stations altogether for the bioassessment. So that's where we're doing the fish, macrovertebrates, and QHEI, or habitat score. Those are collected by the Midwest Biodiversity Institute crews. They're actually out there right now. They got started this week. So they're out there doing work both for us for the Lower Des Plaines. They're doing this year is the year for the Lower DuPage River watershed bioassessment, and then working with the DuPage River Salt Creek work group to do the Salt Creek assessment. So the MBI crews are kind of going to be all over the area this year. They did get started on some of the smaller tributary stations doing fish work both last week and this week. They're going to be shifting over to some DuPage sites. So kind of going back and forth on that. So I believe they're out here for another, I think till sometime mid next week, and then they'll be back again in August for several weeks, and then probably back again in September to finish up. So a number of the larger sites will get 2 passes of fish, and then all of the smaller sites just get a single pass of fish. And then we've been working on our water chemistry collections since late May. And that's with Microbac Laboratories. They're collecting the samples and analyzing them. And then I think out of the 48 stations, I think we have about 14 sites that we will go and 12 or 14 sites that we're going to collect sediment on. And that sediment collection will be done in the September-October timeframe with staff doing collection. We have a couple interns that are working with us this year through Conservation Foundation. So they've been helpful in getting this. They'll be helpful with the sediment and then some of the other work that we're doing here. We have, out of those 48 stations, 12 sites that are going to be what we're calling the expanded dissolved oxygen monitoring sites. So this is really to gather data for the NARP. So we have the probes that we had purchased. They're being moved around the watershed at this point. So the week-long deployments, at least a week-long, where they're collecting, the kind of 4 basic parameters, DO, temp, conductivity, and pH every 15 minutes. I think we have that set to. And then within that week period, we go out as a sampling crew. So myself, Alex Handel, that's on our staff, and then we have a couple of interns that are helping out with this part here. So we're grabbing an additional set of water chemistry. So it's an expanded set beyond like what we're doing for the bioassessment. where we're getting some dissolved parameters, dissolved phosphorus in particular, total organic carbon, the different components of phosphorus, so like organic or the organophosphate or phosphorus, uh, total dissolved. There's another, all of the nitrogen components, um, some additional BOD. So just a few other things that we don't do as part of our normal bioassessment to fill in really how nutrients are functioning, how that nutrient cycle is functioning within the stream. And then we're also doing benthic chlorophyll A. So we have chlorophyll A systonic, which is in the water column, and then collecting benthic chlorophyll A samples from these sites. And then while we're out there, we have a flow meter that we're using. So we're doing a transect across the stream, getting flow, and then also doing a DO profile across the stream. So we can start really putting together some information, some loading type information. Flow is definitely one of the areas that we just don't have a lot of fine-tuned information on. It's outside of where the USGS gauging stations are, which are generally on the larger streams. We don't really have good flow data for any of the smaller tributary areas. And then this year so we started doing fecal coliform monitoring last year to assist with the MS4 reporting. So we've been basing where those stations are based on, the segments that IEPA has listed for fecal coliform. And out of all of our stations this year that we're sampling in the tributaries, none of those segments are listed for fecal coliform. So from an MS4 standpoint, technically, we don't need to sample for fecal coliform. Because we started last year, we missed sampling on the displanes in the first 2 years of the program. So last year we picked up a few sites on the displanes, the lower part of the displanes river. This year I was just looking at the map, looking at the segments of the displanes that are listed for fecal coliform. So it looks like we'll probably do, I think it'll be 7. It would either be 6 or 7 sites that we'll collect fecal coliform on, and that's doing the 5 samples within 30 days. And we've had again, this was actually worked out really well this year. The Conservation Foundation had an intern that we trained to do this, so he's already collected all of the fecal coliform sites for Lower DuPage. I think he's finishing up the Salt Creek sites this week, and potentially next week we'll have them start collecting these on the Des Plaines River. So I think that's pretty much where we're at with the monitoring program. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you see a truck with the MBI logo on it on the side of the road, that's our crew out there doing sampling. All right. So for the chloride variants, we met and we had our chloride committee meeting in April. Kind of started talking, getting this sort of back on people's radar. Kind of basically what we've been hearing is that Illinois Pollution Control Board has it on their plans to take this up this year and make action on it, make a move on it. We have not gotten any further updates on that, as far as I know. I haven't heard anything as that things are moving forward yet, but looking to be prepared for that. That's kind of why we really got the chloride committee moving again. Our next meeting is on August 17th. We have a number of people who had volunteered to be on that committee. If you are or know of anybody else who would be interested in participating, just send me an email and we can get them on the list. But our next meeting is still via Zoom on August 17th at 9. We had asked all the participants in that group to submit snow and ice plans as well as lane mile information by August 6th. You need to go through the list and just make sure. I think we probably have a few communities that are not represented on there, and reach out to those for that information. But we're really trying to compile kind of where everybody is right now so we can start developing some baseline information, as well as to start looking at those snow and ice plans to determine if any of them have all the components that would be needed for a pollutant minimization plan, which is kind of one of the first items first deadlines in the chloride variance, because that's something that needs to be done within 6 months after the variance is passed. Looking at some of the snow and ice plants that we've been receiving in, by and large, a lot of information is there. So it may be just making some tweaks to those plans versus starting in a completely new document. So we'll be working on looking at that information. And then we did hire a new watershed project manager here at the Conservation Foundation to coordinate the Chicago area waterways watershed group that'll be focused on the chloride variance. Her name's Hannah Miller. I introduced her through email, and she's going to participate in our August 17th chloride committee meeting. Because it's the same variance across the two different watershed groups, and the fact that we have kind of crossover as far as community areas go. Right now, the basic understanding is that even if you are kind of crossing the watershed boundaries, you only need to belong to one of the groups. But with that being said, I think there's going to be the need to potentially report out to both groups so that we're covering the whole area. So there's definitely going to be a lot of coordination between the two groups. So Hannah will definitely be kind of helping to coordinate some of those efforts as we go forward. Let's see. Another kind of on the front of on the chloride side of things, the Conservation Foundation had applied for and received a 319 grant to develop a Illinois-based parking lots and sidewalks training and certification program. So something similar to like what we pay Fortin Consulting to come down and do. We're really looking at how do we develop that into partly more than likely be a lot of virtual components to it so that they're more accessible. If you have new staff that come in mid-season, you can get them trained, and this would qualify for the annual training requirements on the chloride variance, or even I know talking with folks that have staff there, work third shift, coming to a morning training may not really work for them. So we're looking at different ways to put that training program together, and then what does the certification program mean, as well as, like I said, making sure that all the components in there meet with the BMPs and things like that that are listed within the chloride variance. One of the things that we'll be looking for input, we're going to be putting together a training committee under the Salt Smart Collaborative. And so kind of looking at this as really a regional effort. So as we move forward on that, we'll definitely be reaching out to folks as far as getting some participation there. And then we do have all the dates set for the winter de-icing workshops this year. They will be virtual again, as they were last year. So we have 3 dates for public roads starting in the end of September, 2 dates for parking lots and sidewalks. Basically, just like last year, it'll be a single registration per agency per workshop. So if you want to send people to 2 of the different workshops, you have to register twice, but you only need to register for each of the days once, and then you can share that link with all of your employees. I think registration will be like $45, which is incredibly reasonable for getting all of your staff to participate or have the ability to participate in these workshops. We're working on registration materials right now, and I think links may be up by next week, but definitely by early August, the registration links will be open, and they'll all be through the Salt Smart website. And then I'm going to turn things over to Leah for this next part of the conversation.
So I'm going to give a quick update on what's happening with outreach materials. So we're creating a new website. And so I just want to share a few of the changes between this and our current website. And so that's like a sneak peek of what it's looking like. So the main change is that now both of our watershed group, the lower disciplines, and the lower due page watershed group materials, like member resources, are housed on the same site. So Jennifer, if you go to the next slide, just like a preview of what that looks like. So in this About Us section, you can see there's a side menu. So they're both on the same website, but they still have their separate sections. So it's clear if you're looking for minutes for this meeting, you can find that there. And just trying to make it as accessible as possible. So there's always like a quick button at the top of the navigation menu if you need to quickly get to the lower disciplines materials. And then we also changed how the outreach materials are organized. We've previously been organizing it by season, so fall, winter, spring, summer, but now we have organized it by topic because I think that'll be pretty useful if someone on staff is looking for materials on rain barrels. You don't have to think about what season that is. You can just click directly on rain barrels and see all the available materials, which is a preview right there of what that looks like. And then the third major update is that the site now has a lot of educational pages. So the website now functions as an outreach material in and of itself. So we've created new pages that you could direct residents to if they have a question about leaf litter, about stormwater runoff. And so we're hoping to make that part of the website as useful as possible. And that's the next slide. Oh, I guess it's
You actually didn't, yeah, you didn't have one specifically with the like blog post.
Okay. Yeah, and there's like a whole blog component that we share the blogs on our outreach materials page, but then we also show what the blogs actually look like on a functioning website. So you could always take the text yourself and put it on your blog or your newsletter, or you can direct people to our website. And then for the next year about outreach materials, we always want your input. So if you have ideas for topics, if you have a lot of questions from residents about a certain issue and would want a handout or a blog or anything to share with them, please let me know, and we can collaborate to make that material. And then we're also the format, Jennifer, does that mean like if they need a specific,
I mean, like is the social media, like the square social media pieces, is that useful? Are the formats that we're putting things in useful for how you need or would like to use them, or are there other formats, whether like do we do more of the poster type pieces versus the articles? So just getting that kind of input, like how can we make things most useful for you?
Yeah, definitely. And if we also can adapt the format too. So if we already have a material that you like, but you want it in a different format, you want it as a social media graphic, or you want it as a PDF handout or something, you can also make that change too. And then we are looking for pictures and videos to help make new outreach materials. So in the upcoming seasons in fall and winter, if you have or your staff have any pictures of leaf collection happening, any part of that process, street sweeping, converting your trucks from leaf collection to snow plows, and then snow plowing itself, anti-icing in process, and then any of your salt storage or brine making, we'd love if you could send us pictures or videos that you've taken, or you can, reach out to Jennifer and I. We'd be really happy to come to your facilities or arrange a time to get any of those photos and pictures.
Yeah.
And then
like nice like pictures of the river as it runs through your community, especially with the new website, we have lots of opportunities to put more pictures in, showing some of the cool areas within the watershed. So would definitely be interested in pictures like that. And some of the other things too that Leah and I've been kind of talking about is, really telling more stories about how things work in the watershed, helping residents understand that, whether it's the leaf collection process or the snow plowing, like it's not like you're just putting somebody in a truck and sending them out. Like there is a plan, there's a process to it. There's a lot of thought and coordination that goes into these programs. And so trying to bring some of that to life through stories, maybe through some interviews. If you have staff who would be willing to be in front of the camera and answer a few questions or talk about their job, that would be really awesome too.
Yeah, we'd love that, to showcase like the great work that your public works is doing, and yeah, put a face behind that too. And then for the fall, just those materials will be available in a few weeks in mid-August. So I'll send that out to your communications list. So fall topics, we always talk about leaf litter. So we're kind of talking about what happens to leaves after you set them out for leaf collection. Where do they go? Managing your yard to protect water quality. We've kind of been making resources around this garden refresh native plant garden project. So the next material of that is preparing your yard for winter. And then we've never made a material on septic systems before, so we thought it was time. So just an overview about proper septic system maintenance, and then another ecology post on fish that live in our rivers and streams. And then just a recap of what we have currently now for summer is that we have this River Responsible campaign that includes this poster, and then it was even made into a sign by Plainfield, I believe, and then social media graphics that kind of separate each River Responsible tip.
Yeah, and this one is really kind of, well, obviously timely in the time of year it is, but for those of you that have been kind of following the effort that's out there right now, I know there's a change.org petition about trying to make the DuPage River listed as a public waters. Technically, I think the only true public waters within our area is the Des Plaines River main stem itself, the Kankakee main stem, as far as public access goes to rivers. Obviously, there's public canoe launches all over the place on other streams like the DuPage River, but the Illinois water law is it's old, rather antiquated, and very geared towards the property rights side of things. So there've been some complaints down on the DuPage River, and I think I would say definitely valid complaints from landowners about, as more people have been using the river, just more trash, people trespassing, getting out and walking across their properties, kind of loud, obnoxious behavior. So, those are things, actually, that's the whole reason why this poster and an effort came about. We've worked with the Village of Plainfield specifically on this. So we got these out early this year. And then, but this movement around the river has really kind of picked up steam. And the thing is that even if, I think in order for it to become a public waterway, technically it'd be a legislative process. But even if it did become a public waters, this is still an issue. Like, people still need to be respectful and responsible while they're out on the water. And that as the Conservation Foundation, I mean, this is something that we promote. We want people to be out and interacting with nature and enjoying nature, but we want it done in a responsible way. So, there's kind of valid arguments on both sides of this. People should have access to rivers in our state, but at the same time, that access comes along with responsibility. So I think the more that we can do to talk with residents about this, encourage them to be outside and interact with the river, but to do it in a respectful and responsible way. So this, I think, is definitely something that is we're going to be talking more and more about throughout the year, both through the Watershed group, but definitely through work that the Conservation Foundation will be doing and working with our partners, particularly those agencies that have river access points. So definitely would like any input on this, or any if there are other materials or things that you would like to see as a community along the river, definitely reach out to us.
And then another reminder about our pet waste campaign, because people are walking their dogs year round, so not just for summer. And we have, again, free signs, dog waste dispensers, and extra bags still available. So you can contact Jennifer or I if you're interested in participating in the campaign. And then it also includes a lot of graphics and pictures, as you can see some examples that, and messages as well, that we can share to have a coordinated campaign to encourage people to scoop the poop to protect our rivers.
Yeah, and this is definitely open, whether it's municipalities, park districts. We've actually been working with some homeowners associations that have, paths through their common areas. So, we're definitely happy to really work with anybody that has trail systems out there as far as getting the signs and the dispensers out. So, if this is something that you want to share information with homeowner associations within, your community, they can reach out to us directly as far as getting signage or just, passing on the information. Many homeowner associations now have Facebook pages or their Nextdoor accounts where they're looking for information to share, with their residents. And so whether it's the pet waste campaign or sharing information as far as some of the other like outreach materials that Leah was just talking about, that's another great avenue for getting these things out.
And then just a reminder that we are on Facebook and we show kind of examples about how we use these materials. So you can take inspiration from that, or you can just share it directly from there, because we want to make it as easy as possible to share these materials out with your community.
And our numbers are growing. We're
Steadily.
getting more, right. They're steadily growing with more and more people that are, liking our posts and sharing our posts. And the more people that do that, the farther our reach will be. So, if your organization has a Facebook page and hasn't liked the Lower Des Plaines Watershed group yet, please go and do that and help us just get the word out in a broader way. So again, Leah's contact information, or you can contact me and I can get questions to Leah. I think Leah's information is pretty much in all the other emails that we send out in the meeting reminders as well. But we would really like, obviously, your participation in using the materials, but also your participation in creating materials, helping us create that content. Again, like Leah said, showcase the great work that your public works people are doing. So please reach out to us. And if you don't, I think we'll definitely start reaching out to specific people that we know are doing good things that, maybe haven't taken that step to reach out to us yet. But we definitely, there's definitely a movement to utilizing short video clips and kind of interview style things, or just like I said, telling stories. And that's definitely something that we're focusing on more, like through the Conservation Foundation. Like they say, people don't necessarily remember numbers and figures, but they remember stories. And so as we can put a more human face onto the work that we do and the importance of it for, building safe, healthy communities, I think, that will just help further our work along. So our next meeting is September 23rd. I don't know if people have any thoughts one way or the other. You can send me an email or you can unmute yourself, but like thoughts about whether we continue to do meetings via the Zoom format, if we want to try to get back to in-person meetings, and whether that's a possibility at this point, like we've done them in the past at Romeoville. So I can kind of talk offline with Romeoville and find out, if they're able to start doing in-person meetings again. I know the nice thing with the Zoom meetings, we've been getting participation from some folks who maybe in the past wouldn't have been able to make it in person to a meeting, just distance and time travel So I would definitely like some input as we talk about the potential for our September meeting. And then we still need to actually nail down a date for November because unfortunately our meeting date falls on Thanksgiving. So we still need to figure out if we're going to try and do that potentially maybe the week following Thanksgiving. So we'll definitely get some info out on that. And I believe that's it. So does anybody have any questions, have anything to add? All right. Well, if something comes up, definitely reach out to Leah or myself, whether it's outreach related, whether it's related to, get your draft permits. People have been really good about getting those to me, so we make sure that we have all of our language included. I think that process has been going well. IEPA is really trying to get permits out at this point. Yeah, any other questions, please reach out. And otherwise, we'll see you one way or another in September. Thank you.
Thank you.